our own planet Earth can barely afford any more carbon emission in future. The condition is very much in critical, and but we need to continue to emit for our survival and development purposes. What is the carbon budget available? And more importantly, it's trigger more of a difficult situation and raise those climate change catastrophic event that occur due to this carbon emission. The annual carbon dioxide emission have grown about 70 times since the pre-industrial era, and this era that reached nearly 36 gigatons in 2019. Unless we bring them down to 18 gigaton by 2030, we are headed for a catastrophic climate event, and it can be disaster in future in environmental point of view. This analysis focused on the environment and this climate condition in the future. The climate change is very much real and obvious. We have to face this, and in future it's getting a more serious concern that we faced, and obviously the consequences is that for a certain the already experiencing those doomsday scenarios that the climate scientist has projected for those distant future. And United Nations top climate science body, that intergovernmental panel on those climate change action, that has the assessment report in 2021, the physical science basis, the only confirms that we already know and see in the world around us. It's triggered by extreme heat and moisture losses and devastating flood that caused by extreme rain event and the tropical cyclones that powered by the changing temperatures between the sea and the land surface. The report also clearly says that the human activity for certain are to be blamed for these climate events, and some carbon dioxide and other major greenhouse gases that may have warmed the planet beyond its tolerance level up to a certain level of maintenance, the climate change effect, and that's maybe the atmospheric carbon dioxide reach those upper level, and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, some important body, have observed this phenomenon. What even more worrying is that world is running out of carbon space and time to fix the problem. Currently, the release about 36 gigatons of carbon dioxide every year into the atmosphere. We say we need to budget our carbon emission based on the planet processing abilities, how to keep those average global temperature rise to maintain above the pre-industrial level of 1.5 degrees centigrade, keeping the world from those catastrophic climate impact. As per the estimated that provided few years ago, that world needs to cut the emission by 45 to 50% compared to the 2010 levels in near 5 to 10 years, and by 2050 that turn to be carbon net zero. India also declared in the United Nations COP26 agreement that in 2070, in the next 50 years, India also become a net carbon zero free countries. The lack of carbon capture and the storage, it is stated that in 2020 the world is left with a total carbon budget of 400 gigatons of all times to come, and it is it means that once we cross these threshold values, whenever we crossed it, we are headed to a temperature rise of more than 1.5 degrees centigrade. All this information coming from the world of topmost scientists should scare us into the action, what consequences we may face, what is the scenario of environment in the next 10 years, how these highly populated countries like China, India, and all those other important South Asian nations need to control this carbon emission, how to reduce the carbon emission, turn into the net carbon zero countries as soon as possible in the next 30 years. Every country should aim to reduce this carbon emission footprint, recognize those blueprint, and they can move towards very rapidly to fulfill those desired steps, the necessary steps to save the earth, to regain the normal conditions of the earth atmosphere, reduce the pollution levels. Instead, that it has turned to an intense battle between the different blocks of countries, and the scientists also discussing the climate change that are forced to confront the politics of who emit how much, who is causing more harmful effect in the environment, and why it's not possible to reduce. It's a huge uncertainty in future the planet has faced in this carbon budget issues. The three reasons that makes its budgeting those complex condition: one is pollutant, primarily the carbon dioxide and methane. They have an extraordinarily long life. The carbon dioxide emitting, it's very much in the atmosphere in still a very long tenure. Historical emission continues to warm up the conditions. The emission are due to the wealth generation also. The combating those climate changes is about sharing the growth between the nations, which means sharing the carbon budget also. That's the valid point. All the nations are agreed and they are willing to do this. While the carbon dioxide is the most emitted greenhouse gases, there are several others also involved with a higher warming potential. The carbon dioxide lifespan is almost the warming potential in top categories of a span of 150 to 200 years. The methane lifespan of 12 to 15 years with warming potentials of 28 times of carbon dioxide itself. The nitrogen dioxide, nitrous oxide, is 120 years with the warming potential, that is the 265 times of carbon dioxide. And those fluorinated gases, the lifespan of huge 10,000 years approximately, and is the huge warming potential compared to the carbon dioxide. These are the family of gases that containing those fluorine warming potential values for the 100 years time horizon. And these two pollutants, something like linked to the economic growth. And the bulk of those carbon dioxide emission are from the burning of fossil fuels, which are used to generate those electricity, transport goods, and power our houses and factories. So the world discusses the climate change. It's discussing the economy, not just the ecology, also the planet. The atmosphere and the emission that are due to the wealth generation in countries combating those climate changes. That is about sharing those growth between the nations, and also the fact of national budget combining with sharing the carbon budget itself. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.